Hello everyone. I'm Fiza Musthafa. I'm a solution engineer here at Microsoft, and today I'll just be talking about how we build declarative agents for M365 Copilot using the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. And MCP is one of the most important extensibility announcements we've had recently because it really fundamentally changes how Copilot is now able to connect with external systems. And my goal today is very concrete. I just want to make this as clear as possible for you. So what is MCP? Why does it matter? And what and how can you build with it? So to start off, this is the agenda, and this is what we'll cover in the session today. What is MCP? How does it plug into declarative agents? A little bit into the M365 Agents Toolkit workflow and a live demo of that as well. And then also a look into what's next or what's coming. And so to start off, what is the Model Context Protocol? At a very high level, MCP is a open universal integration standard that allows your AI models, your AI systems to connect with any external systems in a very consistent manner. So instead of every AI application building a custom logic for every API out there, MCP essentially stands there to define a standard contract for how models can discover capabilities, how they can access specific data, how they can invoke some specific actions as well. And as we build more and more capable agents, MCP will only become increasingly more important to the overall conversation. So basically, just quickly explained, MCP just lets your Copilot agents plug into external systems with a standard contract so that the integrations can become much more portable, much more secure, and also way more easier to scale. And before we get to the Copilot specific part, I want to make sure that everyone is aligned on the architecture. So especially if you're not fully aware of how it looks like under the hood. So MCP essentially, like I mentioned, standardizes how AI hosts talk to tools, data, and external systems. And here we have three main roles. So to start off, the first one is the host. This is your AI application. And in our case today, it would be M365 Copilot. And the host will decide, okay, what context is shared, what server should I connect to, and what is the model even allowed to do, and how the results are also shown to the end user. And then comes the MCP client. This will be within the host, and it speaks the protocol, so to say. And then we have the MCP servers. So these are what live sort of externally, and then they expose capabilities in a structured manner. And these capabilities are expressed as tools, resources, and prompts. I'll just quickly elaborate on each of these. So tools are, for starters, actions that your AI can take. So as an example, it could be like creating a ticket or looking something up in a database. And tools are arguably the most important part of today's topic, because when we talk about MCP servers within M365 Copilot's declarative agents, we are mainly referring to using tools in a much more integrated way. And I think I would even argue that tools are the most important part of MCP servers. At least that's what I've seen and experienced across my customers. It could be a personal experience, of course, but I just feel like tools are increasingly more important as we talk about it. And but the other two are also primitives that are included in the MCP server. So that could be resources, which are read-only data, such as documents or records, or there's also prompts, which are reusable instruction templates that can standardize common tasks. But as I mentioned, for today, the main focus would be tools, so we can dive into that. And let's now connect this whole picture of MCP with the declarative agent concept. So you have declarative agents, which are M365 Copilot agents, where you can define instructions, knowledge sources, and also actions. And the key idea is that you don't really write complex orchestration code, and Copilot handles the orchestration based on what you define. And MCP fits very naturally here. So when you connect your agent to an MCP server, using a streamable HTTP URL, the agent can then go forward and discover any available tools that the MCP server has. And then you also have a very important point, especially in an enterprise context. authentication can be handled in a very standard way, I would say, using SSO or static OAuth. And then another thing is also that MCP can work alongside any other extensibility options that you already use, such as REST APIs, for example. And this really gives you a certain level of flexibility without adding additional complexity to your existing solutions. Now, how does MCP work with M365 Copilot specifically from the user's perspective? So this is the flow that you can really expect. So the user will prompt Copilot, just send a question to it. And then behind the scenes, the declarative agent will interpret the intent and then decide whether it needs any external data or actions. And then it can use MCP for tool discovery. So essentially, MCP is that standardized layer that lets Copilot discover and invoke the right capability on an external system. And the result comes back in a structured form, and then it is presented to the user. And yeah, so just think of it as like, the user says, get my CRM data in a prompt. And then an MCP server connected to the CRM can use a tool to query the data. And that is just sent as a response to the user. And the key takeaway is that MCP just sits in the middle in a way, and it enables this flow without the user needing to do something special or going out of the way to do something. So I would say it complements the existing Copilot experience extremely well. And how do we make this work? We essentially use the M365 Agents Toolkit within VS Code or Visual Studio Code. And again, just because this happens within VS Code doesn't mean it's automatically a pro-code solution where you suddenly need to learn how to code. It's actually quite straightforward, especially in a declarative agent context. I'd even say you can do this without writing any code at all. Like, of course, you might have to customize certain values, maybe change the instructions that goes into the agent or something, but then there's no real coding involved. That's the heavy lifting that the toolkit really does for you. But this is the flow that we'll follow. So I'll show this in the live demo as well. You will essentially start by scaffolding a new agent within VS Code in the Agents Toolkit, and then you'll add an MCP action, and this is currently in public preview. And then you just enter your MCP server's URL, and then you can choose what tools to be your agent can have access to. And then you can also configure authentication if needed. And so you can, if your MCP server requires authentication, you can set up SSO or static OAuth 2.0 credentials. And then, the rest of it is also super straightforward. You generate and review. So the toolkit auto generates a lot of files for you. And this includes a whole list of files, which we'll get to in the next slide. But the last thing that is super great for me is the one-click provisioning. So this is super cool for me because you don't even have to type anything in the terminal. Excuse me. You just do a one-click to provision, and it's ready for you to start debugging directly within Copilot. And so that's super interesting. And before we go to the live demo, we will just quickly have a quick view into what the toolkit auto-generates for you. And I just have a sip of my drink really quickly. All better. So this is what what I mean by when I say that the agent toolkit, M365 Agents Toolkit really does a lot of the heavy lifting. It generates a schema reading, so it passes through the MCP server's tool definitions. It creates function definitions with the right parameters. So for example, if a tool works within a database and it can specify what's required, like needing a partition key. Again, that's just an example, but that's what that is talking about. And authentication, OAuth wiring, the toolkit can handle authentication setup and credential configuration. I won't be going into this today because I will show an example that doesn't require authentication, but I will share a resource at the end of the presentation where you can look into that to see how exactly you can set that up as well. But in a very short manner, it's super straightforward how the toolkit also enables this as well. And it also generates your application's manifest JSON file. It fills your AI plugin JSON with the MCP actions and the tool description. And then we also have the declarative agent JSON file where it adds the action and the reference to the MCP server into the agent's definition. So again, there's not a lot of manual coding or like a lot of additional effort that you really need to do here. The main heavy lifting of the the code itself is really done by the toolkit, and your role is to mainly customize and to review how it fits your specific use case as closely as possible. And with that, we can actually go into the live demo. I will just switch over to VS Code here quickly. So yeah, we are here in VS Code right now. I already have the M365 Agents Toolkit extension installed. If you don't have it, just feel free to go to the extensions, type in M365 Agents Toolkit, and then install it. And you can go ahead and follow along the flow that we're going to have right now. So to start off, I will start with create a new agent or app. And here I will choose a declarative agent. And now the important thing is to add an action. And here you directly see it. It says start with an MCP server and that it's in public preview. And I will just click on that. And now it's asking me for my MCP server URL. What I will use here is the Microsoft Learn MCP server's URL, which is publicly available. It's available and you can just look it up and you'll immediately find it. And now I'll just put where the project root folder should be, and the application name will be Microsoft Tech Expert. So that'll be my agent's name here. And in a few seconds, so we already have our agent. So the quick scaffolding that I mentioned earlier, it's already done. Again, super straightforward what is possible here. And it already has filled it out with the basic code that we kind of need for today. And what I will directly go towards is the MCP file here. So I open the .vs code file and then I go to MCP here. But maybe you're also asking hey, yeah, sure, you can follow along with what I'm saying right now, but what if you want to look into it later? How do you maybe follow along? It's the instructions are also available online, but once you actually start this, you can also look into the README where it is actually also explained step by step what you need to do. So 2 things to just keep in mind there. And yeah, we'll just head to the MCP file here. And you can see here it has a start button, and I will click on that. The instructions are also written here, but yeah, I'll just quickly click on the start button, and it's telling me I have poor habits with my Git. I'll just ignore that. But yeah, our MCP server has started, and you can already see that it has discovered 3 tools that we can use. And what we'll do here is that we'll just say, okay, fetch the action from the MCP, and it's asking us where it should keep it. And we can just go ahead and click on our AI plugin JSON file. And now this is the other point that I already mentioned, where you can choose what tool your agent has access to. And this is super important because if you look at maybe the official GitHub MCP server, that thing has, I think, 40 tools. There are other MCP servers where there's 100 tools. And what you don't want to do is to clutter your agent's, context with a bunch of tools that it doesn't need. Your agent most likely needs to do 3 things. Don't give it 100 things to do, because then it gets confused as to what exactly it needs to do. If you give it a very specific scope, then it can also rely on that to make much better decisions. But here we only have 3 tools, which is, I would say, not that bad. So I'll just go ahead and select all of them. And yeah, so we will, you've seen that it's already fulfilled my AI plugin file. I'll just quickly click on provision here, and then I'll continue speaking about the code. So yeah, I'll also get back to what exactly I clicked on with provision as well. No worries about that. But you can see, so from the MCP tool, it's actually filled in our AI plugin file with the necessary functions or tools that we need out of the MCP server. So it was a few of them were the code sample search, and then the documentation fetch tool, and also the document search tool. It's all filled out here. And again, we didn't have to do anything aside from clicking a few buttons, which makes it super nice, really. And yeah, and then it's there's also a runtime definition. It also explains what functions the agent can use. And you can, if your agent required authentication, again, the toolkit would ask you what authentication you need. And then the information about that would also be here, just as an FYI, in case you're interested. And I will just maybe still quickly go through the rest of the code so you have an idea of like, what exactly it is here. Like I mentioned, the basic structure is generated by the toolkit, but you can still make it a bit more user-friendly. For example, I can say, okay, maybe I want to change the name for human to be Microsoft Tech, Microsoft Learn MCP server. That way it's a lot more clear to the user what exactly the tool is using. Or, you could just fill out with like the details that you wanted to be filled in. And then you can also look into the declarative agent JSON file where, again, like I mentioned, the action or like the MCP server is already automatically referenced by the declarative agent now, which is super cool. Again, did not have to do any heavy lifting here. So that's all like super nice and super comfortable for us to just have a very good experience when building. And obviously, there are a few more like details, such as that you can, again, change a little bit more to make your agent as perfect as you envision it to be. You can add some starter prompts that you would like your users to use out of the box. And you can also customize the instruction. Here, it just says you're a declarative agent created with the M365 Agent Toolkit. Answer the questions and help the user. Obviously, your agent could have much more refined instructions, and you could do what exactly it is that you needed to do. And yeah, then we also have this file that was made for us where it just goes a little bit into how the deployed application should look like. And yeah, so that's just a quick overview into what exactly it generates for us. And I will just quickly maybe shift to my demo now, and we'll see if it's already available and provisioned. Let me just wait here for a second. So. Oh, yes, I did have to mention another thing. So in the M365 Agents Toolkit, what you can also do is just, so I click provision directly here when I saw the button, but I think I can just go ahead and click it here too. So you just go back to the extension view over here, and then you can just click on provision once more, so, in case you made any edits or in case you just wanted to, go and provision again. So that's also a possibility. We can like just wait until that happens, and then ideally it will be present in my demo environment. So yep, it should be here now. So yeah, I can just maybe share my screen here. And yeah, so I have my tech expert dev that got deployed into my Copilot view. And now maybe I can also just ask it a quick prompt, and let's just see what comes out of it. So I'm just going to ask, okay, what is the new Agent 365 thing from Microsoft all about? So hopefully it uses the Microsoft Learn MCP server. We can see sometimes it is also the case that it can rely on its own knowledge, which is what it is. I think it's actually doing that right now, is actually using its own knowledge. But we can just ask it to maybe use the Microsoft Learn document MCP. Sometimes these things also take a little bit of time to actually realize the capabilities that it has. So we can just quickly ask it, can you use the Microsoft Learn tools available to you? Another way in which you can make this better is by maybe giving a better description also in the description of the agent. I showed it earlier is what I showed earlier was also that, like in the description of the instruction of the agent, it just says help the user, whereas you could say like much more defined, like, hey, your scope is this. Whenever the user asks anything about Microsoft, make sure you use your tools available and so forth. So that makes for a much better experience. And now we'll just, it has prompted us. It's told us these are the tools it has access to. And it's asked us, okay, would you like me to search? And now you can see I've asked it to search and it is using the tool. And here, this is also super nice, is that, it's asking us, like, it's telling us what exactly the query it is and like what tool it'll be using, which is super nice. In case it's the wrong thing, you can go ahead and cancel. But for me, I think it's right. So I just click on confirm, and then we can wait for a response. Yep, and now it's essentially retrieved some things that it's found, because you can also see it's actually more accurate to the actual description here, and then it's given us like the output using the MCP server as well. And yeah, so that's just a quick way in which you can integrate the tool, and then really make sure that you can use it in a very practical way. And the whole setup really goes super quickly, and you could tell that you can make your agents just super functional in like a much shorter time span than maybe before. And I will just quickly explain like one more thing for you, like two more things, and then I can maybe go ahead and answer the questions in the chat as well, because I see some stuff are popping up. So the first thing is you might also be asking why the architecture even matters. And the main thing to me is really interoperability. So you have one integration pattern, that is MCP, that works across many AI hosts and also many servers. And beyond that, it also solves a lot of practical problems. So you have integrations that become reusable instead of one-off creations that you make for some specific use case. And you also have organizations where they get clear boundaries around data access and actions. And then another thing is just that the quality of your AI really improves, because it can really you can enable it to take meaningful actions using MCP. And yeah, so in the Get Started documentation, you can see the link there, and then it also goes through into how authentication is handled. So you can actually look into that and then maybe learn a bit more about how you can do this hands-on. And yeah, I hope that's super interesting for you. And looking forward, I would really assume that MCP combined with declarative agents, REST APIs, and other extensibility options, it's a huge milestone for Copilot. So it can really standardize how integrations are built without limiting any innovation or speed of development. So if you already have an MCP server, or if you're thinking of exposing your system to AI, this might be the right moment to start building. And yeah, I think it's a super nice foundation for a much richer and much more scalable Copilot ecosystem that we can have.